Hello.
Good evening, Lauren. Can you
Hi,
hear
how's it
me?
going? Yep.
Well, I just wanted to do that check. So, we've been on a back channel. Everybody has heard about our back channel. If you've ever been one of our listeners, you know about our back channel. And of course, one of the things that we've been talking about lately is this whole Uvalde thing done in Tejas, Texas, and which is a horrible thing and a lot of disgusting, horrific death. But, and I was trying to think of why I would still want to talk about Delphi in the wake of such a horrific tragedy. And I came up with a reason. The reason why is that Delphi's not been solved yet. I mean, we know who did that particular dirty deed, but we still don't know who did Delphi. We've got all these clues. We've got all this stuff going on, but we've got no answers. Over 5 years. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I also was thinking about that. Why so many of us are still focused so hard on Delphi when there's stuff going on everywhere, every day that is just as horrific. And I came to the same conclusion that it's because I'm a person who needs answers, and I need closure on things. And the rest of the cases that we hear about usually are solved pretty quickly. And this is the only one I can think of going on for this so long that we just still don't know anything. And so, yeah, definitely, I think that's what draws us to the case.
Well, the police have arrested no one for this. I mean, we've all looked at the 2 or 3 leads that they've given us, the leaks or the finds that people made in the past 6 months. The Kleins and the Logans, and that Logan's thing is quite compelling. There's a couple of channels. Do you remember that one channel that we were looking at early today, like 25,000 million hours ago, but it was still today? Do you remember the name of that channel?
Are you talking about
they covered the
retired
Logan.
detective?
No, just the lady it was a female that was doing coverage of it was a 2-part series. She doesn't usually cover this. She did a really interesting show on Ron Logan, and I count out Ron Logan because I don't even for some reason my mind just doesn't wrap around him doing it. But goodness, she made such a compelling case on many different levels, and that's what we have. It's like we keep having all of these compelling cases, but we still don't have an arrest yet.
Yeah.
So what you been thinking? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just think that, and I just want to say that nothing that I talk about on here is anything but my opinion or even just a possibility of something. I try to mull over different scenarios in my head because, like I said, I need answers. And so I don't ever want, anyone to think that if I say, well, it could have been this, that I mean it was that. So now that I got that out of the way, with Ron Logan, it could have been that it was supposed to look like it was him, or it could have been that I know there had been burglaries reported at his property in the years prior. I think up maybe just less than a year before the murders, he had reported that someone was unauthorized in his barn. And I just wonder, if he maybe found something on his property, found the girls or found someone's bloody clothes or something. And if he knew that he was going to be looked at, and that's why he came up with the fake alibi. Because it is funny to me that he didn't ask he wasn't worried that they would find out that he drove to the transfer station. They were just worried. He was just worried about that time period. So that is suspicious to me. I don't know. That's just such a complex thing there. And with him no longer being with us, it's really hard to get many answers.
You know, and that's so true. And let's just say that again for people. I mean, what we're doing, like everyone else, on this whole topic, I mean, you're really just speculating. There's only so many clues you have, but I mean, this is such a compelling case. I mean, you've got to speculate, or at least, you know, human beings are a bunch of chatterboxes. We got to talk about stuff. So, you know, we've got to look at things, and I understand why the police would have, or the law enforcement groups would have such a hard time wrapping their head around this, because we most certainly are at our level. But like you said, though, with Ron, you know, it's like with me, I don't like you insinuated. This person is deceased now, and they may come out. You know, hopefully today will be the day that they, you know, give us the answer to that. But God, yeah, there's there can be a compelling case. Or like I've listened to probably 30 theories on this. Some of them I call conspiracy theories. You and I have talked about it with our other compadre here, Donald, who couldn't make it tonight. Very sorry that he couldn't make it. But, you know, there's a bunch of different scenarios to talk about, and you and I and Donald all have spoken with these things. You know, everybody knows about the Ron Logan scenario, and there's a lot of suspicious stuff with those phone pings. We've talked about those on a previous show. We've talked about his travel that morning, and you just mentioned the fact that he didn't try to get an alibi for the morning when he did drive to the transfer station, but he tried to get one later during the window of the actual murder, you know. So, yeah, that's weird. You know, it's weird that he would go after that, you know. But then again, there's other ways to explain it.
Yeah. It is weird, but it's also circumstantial, like so much, pretty much everything else in this case that we have against persons of interest. It's all circumstantial because there could be a million other explanations for it. I mean, maybe he had been out on the trail or on the bridge or nearby or driving by and saw that, you know, there were a bunch of people out looking for missing girls nearby where he lived. Maybe he just made the assumption that if something happened, which, I mean, I felt like when I saw that they were just missing, I almost instantly felt like, okay, this is not going to end well. So I don't think it's crazy to think that someone else might think that. And so maybe he thought, well, this is close to my house. What if something happened? I don't even want to be under scrutiny because I've been out drinking when I'm not supposed to, or I've been out driving when I'm not supposed to, or he knew he had firearms at his house, obviously. You know, maybe he just wanted an alibi for that to kind of get ahead of it if something was worse than them just missing.
Well, maybe he saw them and like, oh shit, I got this bad stuff going on my property here. I need to start addressing the fact that I need to cover my ass here. You know, I mean, let's just say that he didn't do it. You know, but I mean, you know, of course this is an older guy. I mean, he was 77 years old in 2017. So I want to get a calculator so I know that I'm correct with this. But let's just see what year he was born in. So he was 2017 minus 77. This guy was born in 1940. That's the year John Lennon was born, I think. So,
yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, 1940. Yep, that would be right. Because I remember my grandma was 77 in 2017, actually. So yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, when you think about it, that's a silent generation. That's not a boomer. That's a different thing than what a lot of our parents are. He's a little bit older, you know. But anyway, go ahead.
It's my understanding. I mean, I'm not saying this is true, but I've heard from some locals that the county was wanting his land for something, and that he had refused to sell it. I think for a subdivision or something. And again, I just heard this. I'm not saying that it's true. And the person that I spoke with said, makes sense. What better way to get that land than to have him locked up for the rest of his natural life? Because then it would go up for sheriff's sale, and who would already own it then? The county. So,
well,
I don't know.
That county has been under that scrutiny from many different levels. I mean, one of the first shows that we did, we talked about there was a new lawsuit, and then right after that, a lot of other podcasts started talking about that lawsuit that you told us about the first time we spoke. And of course, if you analyze any county, just like when we were on our back channel, we were talking about we have some of the same town names near us, some of the county names are the same. So there's all of these similarities. So in every town, there's a little bit of corruption, but it doesn't look like that from inside. Maybe from the outside it does. But there's usually some, groupthink description for it, So I don't want to be too hard on Carroll County, but then again, there's a lot of scrutiny out there of what goes on. I mean, we have spent a lot of time looking over criminal backgrounds in that county, specifically of people that are persons of interest of YouTubers, and Ron Logan. Look at him. I mean, he has a long list of petty charges. They have taken, there's a later interview of him back in, I think it's 2019. And he was talking about that the whole law enforcement system was just a money grab. I mean, he felt like that because if you look at all the tickets and stuff this guy had got, I don't know, maybe he was suspicious, I don't know. But he got a lot of tickets. And, maybe somebody was shooting for him. I don't know. I mean, you just don't know, I mean, there's a lot of puzzle pieces there that make it look like that's the case. So I could see why people would insinuate that. Now, again, you and I, we don't know the answer to that. We don't know if it's true or not, but it looks like that. I mean, there's a lot of other things that we can see in this case, too. I mean, what are some other things that kind of bug you about it? And let's talk about everybody now. We're just talking about the fact that we are well-read on the case. We looked at all kinds of theories. So anything we talk about is just, it's not anything that we personally believe. Maybe on one day at 3 a.m. we woke up and go, yeah, that's the answer. Then you went back to sleep and woke up and, nah, that's not it. But, I mean, what were some other compelling cases that really, we talk about Ron Logan. What are some other things that just compelling? The corruption, Ron Logan, and all this. What else? Is there anything else about Logan, or is there something else that's crawling through you right now? What's going on?
Nothing specifically about Logan or corruption, but I would just ask everyone to kind of bear in mind that if you're getting pulled over on a regular basis every couple months and getting a seatbelt violation, you're under scrutiny. Are you going to be the person to go and take 2 children in broad daylight and murder them? I mean, to me, I feel like we're looking at people with criminal records when obviously this person has been able to evade capture and conviction for 5 years now. And I just think that if you're somebody that the police, quote, harass regularly, you're probably not going to be as brazen to do something like that. My personal opinion is that it's someone without a criminal record. So.
Well, yeah, let's just talk about, that for a minute. Ron, we all know that he probably had a drinking or substance abuse issue challenge. We all know that everybody that ever talks about Ron Logan in any positive way, in any negative way, was that he had a lot of people around him that came from dysfunctional families or environments. He tried to help out. He wasn't perfect, and again, he could be a murderer of those 2 girls. I don't know. I mean, we can't see from that bridge guy video who this is, we don't know who that is. It could be Ron Logan. But just my gut on it just doesn't, like you said, it just doesn't add up. But then, goodness gracious, there's a million other things that do. And I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words other than to say that, I mean, if the guy wasn't guilty, he sure did look guilty, you know.
Let's take it back to basics, though, to the FBI description until they removed it here just a couple months ago. The age range has always been 18 to 40, but may appear younger than his true age. Now, Ron Logan, he might not have looked 77, but he sure didn't look below 40 to me. So I think, you know, there's something to what Doug Carter says when he tells you at the April 19th press conference to basically ignore the man on the bridge from the shoulders up. Ignore that. Look at his mannerism. Look at the way, you know, he holds his hands in his pocket or things like that. He specifically says, do not pay attention to the face. And then they released the second sketch of a much younger person, which I'm not sure what that means, but never did they say 18 to 70 as the suspect's age range. And I'm not saying that's always infallible, but I am saying that right there, he doesn't even meet the physical description.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I've always said, and of course Donald and I've always discussed, he thinks the guy's 40 and above. I don't think so. Whenever I look at all of the frames from that video, and you can download that you can Google, you know, images 44 or frames 44 through 48 of Delphi Bridge Guy video, and the little square or the rectangle will pop up of all 48 frames that were captured from Libby German's cell phone that we've been released. Now there's what, how many ever seconds of it? 43 seconds, and we only got 1.5 seconds. But if you look at frames 44 through 48, and let's talk about that question mark too, but if you look at frames 44 through 48, you can see the young guy, because there's nothing you can tell on the first 40-something frames at all. I mean, there's blurring, and there's blurring on frames 44 through 47, but not as bad. And I see somebody young there, or apparently young. You don't see somebody old there. But again, you know, I can see in those frames somebody young. But now this question mark thing, that's kind of a weird dynamic. And we talked about this, and it was in reference actually to Ron Logan. I hate going back to this guy, but the reason why I'm even bringing this up is that video that I can't even reference the name of the podcast. But they had 20 or so minutes into it, had a picture of Ron from a video when he was speaking, and he had on some kind of a hoodie of such, and it had a reflective zipper on the front. And Ron always keeps his zippers kind of low, so they kind of flop on his jackets and on his hoodies and everything. But I noticed that there was a little, on those frames 44 through 47, there was this question mark looking thing, which is really deeply, there's something more there. You know, it's like you're looking at a question mark. Who is this? It's like a question mark. You can see that on those frames there, and we'll try to include it in the video where we're talking about this. But you can see on those frames a question mark. And, you know, I wonder if somebody didn't put that there at first, you know, just like some kind of a hidden artifact. But I think it's another kind of artifact. I think it's reflections off of some kind of a vest thing. Now, the reason why I was able to notice this is because more than 5 years after the murder, the morning I recognized it, I was wearing the same type pullover. So, that's down a rabbit hole. I'm off in the weeds right there. So I'm telling you how far I'm off in the weeds with this, because I'm trying to make sense of things, and I want it to be easy, but then again, my brain leaves Occam's razor and drifts off into this. Pull me back up out of the weeds, Lauren, please.
Okay. So I saw this video by this creator. I won't mention who it was. And they basically were analyzing what Bridge Guy was wearing, the jacket. And then they were analyzing a jacket that Ron Logan had worn, and maybe it was the next day or a few days later in an interview that he did for the news. And on this supposed, quote, absolute proof that Ron Logan is the Bridge Guy, they showed that they analyzed the shadows and stuff from the Bridge Guy's jacket, and they had a logo on the chest, and it was an Indiana Packers logo. And I know exactly what coat that is. A lot of the people that I worked with had that coat. And it's just like a blue jacket, like a freezer type coat with the Indiana Packers logo across the chest. And when they showed the video of Ron Logan in the interview, his was just a plain blue zip-up jacket with no logo. But they're still out there saying this is the same jacket when clearly it isn't. And I think what that speaks to is that it's a blue jacket, okay? It's not a fingerprint. It's not DNA. It's a blue jacket. And probably 70% of the jackets that I see in the winter are blue. I mean, I have a blue Subaru jacket hanging in my closet. That doesn't make me, the Bridge Guy.
Hey, so that word Subaru, that was another thing that stands out with you. I want you to talk about Subaru, Jack, because I've heard, instead of hearing Indiana Packers, I've heard Subaru was written on the jacket. But now, real quick though, blue in a picture from a cell phone that old doesn't imply that the jacket's blue. It could be reflecting blue light. It could be in a black jacket, couldn't it? I mean, but anyway, go back to the Indiana Packers thing. That there's just
that was pretty much it. That was pretty much it. Just that we have to be really careful with what we call evidence or proof, because it doesn't prove anything. I mean, Ron Logan, he may have fit the physical description, and if Ron Logan was being framed, maybe somebody knew that he wore a blue jacket all the time. I mean, if you're familiar with your neighbors, or you live in a small town and you've known somebody for a really long time, or you even can find them on Facebook, you could easily find what they wear a lot and try to make yourself look like that. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but let's not. I think the biggest danger in this stuff coming out like this is that it pretty much convicts him in the public eye, and then everyone assumes that the killer is Ron Logan and has been caught. And obviously, they're still looking for that killer.
Well, again, I started this out with under normal circumstances, I've never even put Ron Logan in the mix, but people can twist the data, and there's so much that we don't know, that anything past the point of what we do know, it sounds like it's reasonable because it can be put forth like that. It's like what we kind of talked about this as well, of what we learned about what Kegan and his dad, supposedly his dad, I don't know about his dad, but at least Kegan was accused of allegedly catfishing people. And it's you start thinking about anything. I mean, it's like selling somebody a vision, except for it's fraudulent. It's like you can sell people a vision and it'd be a good thing, and it'd be productive, like socially productive. But you can also sell, a podcaster can sell, someone that's involved in CSAM, a business leader, Elon Musk. A lot of people can sell a vision, and it could be good or bad, and I I don't know about all that. It makes me wonder, people taking advantage of people. It's kind of hard that people do that, but I guess it happens, right? Like with
yeah, it does. I mean, what bothers me about it is that the jury pool, if this ever does go to trial, and I hope that it does, that nowhere probably in Indiana is there going to be a juror that isn't tainted by this this constant changing of POIs. Like, I can name 20 people off the top of my head that have been accused of this. And, probably half of those people had some kind of circumstantial evidence that could really be quite profound. But in running all that through social media and dropping people's names and doing all of that, I really do feel like it interferes with the investigation. And of course, I mean, the human nosy part of me wants people to tell me who they think it is, but in private, because we just have to be so careful not to compromise the investigation. And it would be so easy for a defense attorney, when they finally do find the guy or get him, to in court say, well, how do you know that it was my client? There have been 50 people accused of this crime that match the description and blah, blah, blah. Like, everything that they're saying that the actual guilty person what makes him guilty, like, there are 50 other people that the same thing has been said about. So, I don't know. It's kind of a slippery slope there on that.
Well, especially if you look at the clients, who have been, man, I don't know. We talked about how many videos were available for Uvalde, but if you just go through and look at, just search the term, you gotta work with it, TK, KK, Klein. If you go to YouTube and you search for that over the past 6 months, I mean, if these guys are not guilty, they have been hung on the public cross for it. For they may have been involved with some bad stuff, for sure. But I mean, just think about that. Just think about somebody drops your name. Somebody dropped us one time. It's like, well, maybe one of you were the old guy, and one of you were the young guy. I'm like, first off, I've never been to Indiana, but second off, thank you for pointing that out, because that's some of the theory. I mean, there are people right now that actually believe that there are two people involved or multiple people involved. There's all kinds of ways to look at this case. This is the most complex thing I've ever happened upon in my life, and I've been across some crazy shit. How about you?
Yeah, I have seen some crazy shit, heard some crazy shit. I've followed true crime for a long time now, probably since I was 12 years old. And this is by far the most just mind-boggling thing that I've ever heard. And I just think that we should... I'm sorry, you go ahead, because I just totally lost my train of thought.
Well... I mean, yeah, I mean, that happens. I mean, because this like I said, you can get off in these wormholes, and like you said, it's a complex case. This thing goes on and on and on. I've sit here, I can't tell you how many hours over the past 5 years. I remember when I first heard about this case, the week that it popped up, I was listening to Lorden Arts and other groups like that. And I think it was John Lorden, and just many others. I like you, I've been studying or looking at these cases forever, because I don't understand it. I don't understand how people kill people. I mean, I've been very upset with people before, in my life, but I just don't understand it. And then, when I was lying in bed, and my life was otherwise beautiful, and I didn't take my flu shot that year. And I got around a lot of people shaking hands, and I got sick, and I was lying in bed, listening to all this stuff, and I heard about this, and it was like a follow-up on it, and I was like, I was like, wait a second. We're having pictures of this guy, and we don't know who this guy is in a small town, the same size county as the one I'm living in, with the demographics about the same. You know, why? I don't get it. Then I didn't get it then. I don't get it now. I just don't get it. I don't know why this thing is so complex. You know.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Okay, now that reminds me of what I was going to say was that fact right there is why I think that they have a pretty good idea of who they're looking for, and why I think that they're speaking to, when they say they're speaking to the public, they're speaking to an individual, somebody who has provided, and let me make this very clear, I don't know who that person is, just some person in general who has provided another person an alibi, and the police are suspicious about the authenticity of that alibi, and they're appealing to that person's conscience. And I don't have anybody in mind for who I think they're talking to. But the fact that we have all of that and they're so vague, and I even heard some rumors and speculation that maybe the police altered some details of the photo and the video that they released because it would have given away certain things that they know that they don't want the public to know yet. So I don't know whether that's true or not, but if it is true, then that right there is a pretty good clue to me that if they're really looking for me or you or somebody in Germany to know who that is, they wouldn't be altering the photo. Now, they may not be, but if they were, that tells me that they pretty much have a good idea of who it is. And I know Robert Ives said that during his time there, they never had somebody that they thought, oh yeah, that's the guy. Well, Robert Ives hasn't been with the case in quite some time now. So, his mind may have changed since the last time he was interviewed. Or maybe that's something that he had to say to protect the integrity of the case too. So. Well,
that's the big part, is that we don't know where that blurred line that blurred line occurs, because there is the integrity of the case. There's what can be released, and I listened to that interview you were talking about there, but I know this for a fact. I know there's somebody in law enforcement there. And it may be competing theories, just like all of us. Everybody in the YouTubosphere has a theory on it. There's somebody there that has a theory that's right, because they actually have a vision into data that we don't have. But I also think that looking at that case file, I know that right now, the last word that we heard from the supervisor of the ISP, Doug Carter. Yeah, was that, at least that we can name publicly. He always, don't have anybody we can name publicly. So they know who it is. They just got to figure out. You mentioned about that alibi. There's something with that. There's got to be something with that. There's somebody there that, alive or dead, was protecting him at the time that he said that. There was somebody that they highly felt, from the data they were looking at. And of course, they can actually collect DNA in surreptitious ways and know who it is, and can't prove it until they can get to that point. I know damn well with the technology out there, I have a hard time believing from what we saw in that Ron Logan affidavit for a search warrant, that we don't know who it is. If there's DNA there, they have to know who it is. I mean, it just, maybe DNA should prove it. Maybe they've got to have some kind of a reason to collect DNA. I don't understand it. I don't understand why they haven't solved this fucking case. I don't get it. I try to walk down all these categories.
Another thing that I keep going back to is in that, I think it's that same, it was the News Nation interview with Carter, where he says that they're getting close, and once they make an arrest, then they have to hire 60 to 80 new detectives to go back through every single lead. And it took me probably, I don't know, a month of just thinking about that. Like, what does he mean? Why? Why would he need 60 to 80 new detectives? And it just hit me. Well,
what is it?
If there is corruption in the ranks of the Carroll County Sheriff's Department or Carroll County government entities in general, then and they're the ones leading the investigation and tips are going to them, okay, then how do we know that they're investigating every lead? We don't. I mean, I'm not saying they're not, but we don't know that they are. And I think, and they've already said how many different agencies around the state sent people to help. So I'm thinking if they have to hire brand new people to go through it, that's maybe because they don't want somebody who's already been a part of the case to verify that things were handled right. Does that make sense? Like they want new people who have, so it's not even possible, not even the 1% chance that person who's going through the tips now, or those people going through the tips now, were handling the tips in the beginning, possibly, you know, getting rid of them, not investigating them, or whatever. So I can't obviously say anything for sure, but that was curious to me.
But on the darkest topic that we've talked about tonight, we talked about conspiracy amongst law enforcement officials, about how it probably occurs, but the fact that it could occur makes me more disappointed than anything. You know, I guess because of the fact that there should be enough good people, I assume, in government. You know, I can't be in government because I don't feel like I'm built that way, but I see a lot of people that go into it and at local levels. And that's a tough job. Those guys, we expect more of them than anybody else. Anybody that we hire as a sheriff or as a deputy, as a police officer, as a mayor, I expect they be clean. I expect they are the people that stand up and show out when it's time to. You know, even if it's just for some political expediency. But I expect for people to be accountable in local government, specifically in these small towns. And usually it is, but sometimes it takes time. And maybe that's what this is. Maybe it's just that somebody is finishing up retirement. Maybe they'll come out and say things afterwards. I don't know. I'd be curious to know. There's a sheriff there that has caught a lot of hell over the last few years. And I would give a lot of money to be able to sit down with that man about 6 months after he got out of office and got all of his benefits lined out. I would love to talk to that guy. You know.
I completely understand what you're saying, that we have to have faith in our government officials and our law enforcement, and we do need to hold them to a higher level of accountability. And I think that for the most part, the majority of police officers are in it because they truly want to help people. You don't throw yourself in front of a bullet for someone or run into a burning building for a person just because, you want to be able to get away with something later on in your personal life. But I also think it's important to keep in mind that when they've been making all these CSAM busts, I think it was in Florida most recently, they had like 50 people, I think, that they arrested. They had a judge, 2 firemen, a minister, somebody who worked for the Department of Child Services, and just, a couple other various positions where you would expect people to have more morality. And I think there's bad people everywhere in every profession. So to know that kind of corruption goes on elsewhere, I don't think that I don't say we as in me and you, but we as in people who live in Indiana, near Carroll County or in Carroll County, should be so arrogant to think that it couldn't possibly be our people. Just the other day, I was reading an article about a police officer in California who responded to a domestic disturbance, and he sent his partner to go collect evidence and then proceeded to expose himself to one of the family members and then masturbated in their house, like right in front of the daughter. He's arrested and fired, of course, now, and admitted to it. So it's not just, an accusation. It's not allegedly. He did it.
Yeah.
I mean I didn't know how to say that, but yeah, that's exactly what the article said.
But that's an extreme case. But it happened. It did happen.
But it's not an isolated case.
It's not an isolated case. That's right. And can you imagine, just like those girls on that bridge that day, can you imagine the mother or dad sitting there and this police officer's, whipping out his junk and masturbating in front of the children? That's horrible. I'd be like, what in the hell is going on here? So anyway, well, at least we threw a little bit of comedy. Somebody got pissed off at our channel one time because we had a little bit of comedy added into a Delphi show. Now we do different types of shows, and of course I'm like, oh my God, man, come on, you need to go get you some medical cannabis if it's available in your state, of course. Chill the fuck out, but whatever.
I mean, I want everyone to know I take this case very seriously, and my heart breaks for those families, and I am furious over what happened to those girls. But also, you have to have a sense of humor, because if you don't, it gets so dark. Like, it can get so dark inside of you that you have to have some laughter or something to lighten it up a little bit, a little levity to a situation. I used to be a paramedic, and I can tell you that, we would make jokes in some really seemingly serious situations, because if we didn't, we would all be sitting around crying, and we wouldn't be able to do shit for anyone.
Just don't say it on a microphone. Yeah, I mean, I had a buddy that owned a paramedic company. They were an ambulance company, and he was a paramedic and had EMTs and all kinds of folks working with him. And I had an inside scoop with folks for a while. And let me tell you something: to do that job, or a nurse, or a doctor, or any of that stuff, I mean, especially the people out there in the front line. If you're working an accident somewhere, the things that you run across. One of my side jobs is that I have a newspaper, and we cover things. We do all kinds of coverage, and there's horrible things that happen out there. And so anyway, we're coming across the time frame. I want us to do a fun show next. Can we do a fun show next, Lauren? Please tell me we can. Can we do a fun? Can you drink?
Sure.
Can you drink tequila with us? Or no?
Hell no. I'll drink some whiskey, but no tequila.
Well, we'll figure out some kind of a beverage, and we'll have a fun show. Hey, man, this is interesting, and there's so many other things we could fill in. Everybody, please don't think that we're like trying to think this is definitive night, but we want everybody to know that we know that there's a lot of tragedy going on in the world. There's no conviction, there's no arrest on Delphi, and we feel like from our personal existence on this earth that we should figure out a way to keep this case out there. And we may do
definitely,
but you end it out for us tonight. Say goodbye to everybody for us, please.
Well, thanks guys for listening. And like we said, we know there's not a lot going on right now. There's not a lot of new information, and we don't want to be like everyone else who just regurgitates the same old stuff or fights amongst themselves. So we want you to know we're still thinking about Delphi and we're still working on it, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody.